Mumbi, I think maybe we can start with maybe basic introductions.
Okay.
We'll probably start with the nominees. They can introduce themselves and maybe in less than a minute, brief us on what they're doing and the kind of projects they're running. So Mariam, maybe we can start with you, Mariam.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Mariam Twahir, and I work at Amani Kibera. My work is empowering the girl child and also working with the women. Thank you.
Mora.
Hi everyone, my name is Mora Beryl. I work for She Deserves to Soar based in Kisumu County. And what we do is we advocate for and prioritize for the rights and education of adolescent girls and young women. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's Nina? Who's Nina? Okay, I think she's not, can't hear us. Mumbi, maybe you can give us a brief about yourself. I know I did send the poster out, the ladies,
Okay.
But maybe you can tell us more about yourself.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Beryl? I'm getting confused because of the host's name.
Oh yeah, let me just rename myself.
Okay. So, yeah, thanks for the invite to just speak on project management. So my name is Mumbi Muriuki, and I'm a project manager with Oracle. So Oracle is a technology company. I have 10 years experience of being doing project management, but it's interesting hearing Mariam and Mora also, because I started project management in the NGO world and then later transitioned into technology. So I worked in AMREF in Kibera also, and I've done projects for many countries. So in East Africa, currently I'm covering English-speaking countries within Sub-Sahara Africa. So that's what I currently do. I'm very passionate about community work also. So I also do a lot of voluntary work and community development through the Starehe. I think we all know Starehe communities, Starehe boys and girls. So I do a lot of projects with them that impact the society. Maybe in a nutshell, that's who I am. I don't know if we have any questions. So I think it's an open forum.
Yeah. We've had one person join us, Rose. Hi, Rose. So we were giving brief introductions of ourselves and what we do. So the floor is yours, Rose.
Hi, can you hear me now? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Hi, my name is Rose Monoher. I'm brand manager at MediPoint Pharmaceutical. Initially, was one of the nominees for Zuri, but I've not been active, I've not been online. And I'm really, really sorry about that, but I hope to catch on with all the activities you have been going through. Thank you very much.
So we have our speaker in already, Mumbi. I think maybe we can just start the session. The others will join in as we go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So can I share? I'll just share. Oh, Are you able to allow me to share the screen?
Yes, I'm just giving you the, just did.
Okay.
Okay.
So I just had a few slides on project management, and maybe to just create awareness on what project management is and the different methodologies. So I'm going to cover the project management constraints. Then we move on to project governance, what it means. And also we look at a few project management methodologies. I don't know if this is fine with people per agenda. We can always change.
I think that's fine. If,
That's fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So this speaks to the constraints that we have in project management. So for you, so maybe what's the understanding of a constraint? So that's a limitation or a restriction. So when you have a project and you're all managing projects, remember we'll have a budget or the cost, which is also funding in the NGO world. We also have risks. So the three components, the three constraints, the major ones for a project are the scope. So the scope is what you're delivering. Yeah. So maybe just for it to be participatory, I would just ask, maybe someone can give us an example of one of the projects. Let's say Miriam, for instance, if you could tell us just a little about what the scope is about, what you're actually delivering, if you don't mind. Hello, Miriam.
Sorry, you're breaking a bit. Can you please repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so I was saying if you can give us an example of like Amani Kibera, one of the projects that you have, so that we look at what the scope is. Maybe, yeah, one of the deliverables that you have.
Okay. We have different thematic areas. We have the youth leadership.
Okay.
We have. I can speak about the Ways of Girls Empowerment Program, which targets the teenagers and also women. So we empower women through different activities. We have a fashion design school, and then for the teenagers, we do a weekly teen talk with them, and especially now because of the coronavirus. We also support some of the teenagers back to school. Yeah, and they also do the women also do some savings and loan things so that they're able to sustain themselves.
Okay, thanks, Miriam. I think that gives us a very good example of what a scope would be. So the scope is what you want to deliver. Yeah. So part of your scope I can see is, like one of the thematic areas. We have the fashion design, you have team talks, you have the things that you're doing about the teenagers. So we start from there. The scope has to be very clear and very well defined. Yeah. It has to, you all have to agree, and also this ties with stakeholder management. So the first thing you do is agree on your scope, but you don't do it alone as the project manager. Remember, you're managing stakeholders, so you have to map out your stakeholders. Look at, is it the government? Is it the people in Kibera? Make sure anyone who is impacted both positively and negatively has been mapped out. So, who do you need to train? Who do you need to participate in this for the project to be successful? So that's part of project management, where we look at stakeholder management, we map them out, we do analysis. Of importance is looking at who are the negative stakeholders. Yeah, for instance, yeah, a negative stakeholder is someone who will be against what you want to deliver. Because most of the time, these are the people who make the projects not be delivered and not successful. And a good example for us in technology world would be regulation. So we go out, we we develop things, innovative apps and what, then if you forget about regulation, you'll come and find that maybe CBK will not grant you approval to maybe launch the product. So within your stakeholders, you have to map out every stakeholder who is impacted and the role that they're going to play. How are they going to participate? Are they decision makers? Are they people to consult? Yeah, maybe it's the leaders in the community. Do you need to consult them? Who do you need to keep informed? Is it the area chief? Is it the parents? So you need to really map your stakeholders from the word go. Then after that, you discuss with them the scope, you agree what do we want to achieve, or what is our business case when we're doing this? What problem are we solving? So it starts from there. What is your problem statement, and how are you going to help? What mechanism are you going to use to address the problem so that you offer a creative solution? Then of course that ties to it has to come with funding. So you can't start a project if you don't have the budget for it. So where is your budget going to come from? Yeah, who is going to fund it, or who is paying for it? So that speaks about how do you do your estimate on how the fashion design, what is needed in it? Do you need to build a workshop? What are the materials? How much are you going to pay? How much are you going to pay the people who are doing the training? All those things, you have to really budget to the very end so that it can be successful. Then the other constraints that we look at in project management is time. So the schedule. So the timeline is very important. How long is this project taking? Yeah, the realistic timeline. So if it's 6 months or if it's 1 year, then let it be supported. How long is the budget also? So the planning is very, very important. Those three, the first three, the scope management, time management, and budget management, are very, very important when it comes to any project. So a project without any of those is a very fast way to fail. So if you have the scope and the time, you don't have a budget, that won't work. If you don't manage the time, then the project will not be successful. Then we have other constraints that are very interesting, like I've spoken about stakeholder management. The second one is quality management. So how do we ensure the fashion design has been delivered, quality work has been done? So you need to agree with your stakeholders from the word go. How do you measure the quality? So for instance, in technology, we test the systems. So we say we wanted this system to do A, B, C, and D. Then we bring in the stakeholders and ask them, please test and give us results. So we define our criteria. If it's 95% successful, then we have met the criteria. Others can say 98%. So it's very important in any project you define the quality management strategy. Then, of course, as a project manager, you're dealing with people. So I know we call them resources, but you have to fight for the best resources that you have in a project. So most organizations, you'll find projects come because the organization is still ongoing. So they won't give you the best of the people that they have. They want the best people, the skilled ones, to be doing the business as usual. So you must ensure you have the right skills in the projects, because you're building. Remember, it's a change you're introducing. So you need someone who understands the processes, understands the problem well. So you must really plan, do your resource planning, know when the resources you have. For instance, the team talk, who is going to do the team talks? If it's dealing with the teenagers, who is going to do it? At what time in the project plan? Then the fashion design, who is going to train them, who are required in those sessions. So you must have a very detailed plan, because if you don't plan, then it will impact the budget that is there, and also the timelines if you don't plan around it. Then another aspect is risk management. So remember, we are introducing a change in the environment or in society. So it's very important to look at what are the risks. For instance, the recent risk that has impacted all the projects in the world is COVID. So we planned earlier in the year, but we never foresaw COVID until around March. So something like COVID, when you log it, you need to know what do you do about this risk? Do you accept it because there's nothing much you can do, and suspend some of the activities? How creative do you get around a risk? Yeah, if it's a risk of funding or delayed timelines, how do you manage that? Yeah, if it's political risk, for instance, and you're foreseeing elections are coming, and there might be some conflict or any impact, you need to log it. Then you look at how do you mitigate that risk? How do we prevent or avoid this risk from happening? So that is very, very important in project management, because that is what will make your project not successful. Then, of course, we have issues. Every day when you're running the project, you're dealing with stakeholders, and they'll have different issues. Sometimes it's even policies change. So you need to log that as a project manager and track it and look at what are the different solutions that you can come up with so that you address the issues. Then maybe for technology projects, we usually also look at data management. Where are we going? Do we need a system? Yeah, where we store data? Is it in the cloud? Is it in the servers? So all those. Then, of course, there is communication. So as a project manager, it's very important to keep your stakeholders. Remember the stakeholder mapping that we did. All of them need to know what is happening. What stage are we at? Is it capacity building? How far are we with this? If it's the donors, do your reports, keep them updated, be very frank with them, bring out any issue or any risk, let them know this is happening on the ground and this is what we are thinking on doing. So that usually brings harmony in the project, and it will even make, it will make it more successful. So I know I've spoken a lot, maybe some feedback or any question from the team. Is it making sense?
Yes, it.
Okay. Any feedback, any comments, any question? We learn from learning, from asking questions. So any experience anyone would want to share? Yeah. No, because everyone is silent in project management, you don't do it alone. So we'll start with Beryl. Is it relevant, or what would your comments be?
Yeah, for me, I find this very, very relevant, and especially when I look at the constraints, because I realize that at times you have a budget. You don't have a budget, and then your timelines are also not clear. So for me, that's when I get to realize that, you'll have a back and forth. You've started, and then at a point you're stuck, and then you have to go back again to the beginning. So then I get to understand, even from experience, that all these constraints, if they're not taken care of, then they're definitely going to jeopardize the outcomes of the project, and you might end up not achieving the prospective or the outcomes that had been, or the objectives that had been set aside.
Okay, yeah, that's very true. So that understanding from the word go before you start the project is very, very important. And we must document all this and get the sign off from the stakeholders that we have agreed. This is the scope. We have locked the scope. These are the timelines, and this is the plan, and this is the funding or the budget. This is how we're going to be communicating. If it's weekly sessions, if it's a report every week, it is very, it's very important to have everyone on the same page on this. So that's the work of the project manager, to ensure there is harmony and everyone speaks from the same language. So a good analogy would be, let's say you're a pilot and you are you're flying to India. So as a project manager, your number one JD is to ensure everyone is focused on going to India. So that's your goal. You want to deliver X. So, and you know, along the way, others will start going to Somali, others will face South Africa, others. So your work is to manage all these things so that finally we all end up in India. So, yeah. So, Maura, do you have any comments? Is it
not really a comment,
okay.
but then also not a comment rather, but it's an observation, or maybe it could be a comment, because I'm seeing that certain constraints are not relevant to every organization. Like, for example, I'd say, like, when I was starting, I realized that, especially with the bit of stakeholder, like sometimes you don't have any donors, or you don't have any key stakeholders, because, you know, perhaps you're at the in initial stages where you're the sole contributor. But then also the stakeholders could also be the beneficiaries or something. So I'm just looking at all these, and I'm thinking, maybe I can just pick out the constraints that are relevant to my project or with the level of my program, and then I look at them and just, you know, customize them to be in line with what I'm doing.
Yeah, correct. That's true. So in a way, when you have just a framework around this, because whatever project you're working on, will it have a budget, for instance?
Definitely, it will have a budget.
Okay, and a timeline? Do you have a plan and a timeline when you need to deliver?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and of course, there's the scope of what you're delivering, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so depending on the people, so the consumers of what what you're developing or what you're coming up with, those become stakeholders, right?
Right.
Yeah, and in a way, you have to manage them. You have to lead them so that by even sharing the vision of what you want to do, you need to manage them. Then, if you look at a risk, what is a risk? A risk is something that could potentially impact what you're trying to do. So you're going to have a risk, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Then you have to communicate. So you don't need data management doesn't need to be there, but you need to communicate to your management. So it's just to your point on customizing and having the 6 items in your head. Yeah, having them somewhere behind your mind to see how does it impact. But again, I'm going to speak about the different methodologies when it comes to project management, and maybe that will tie in. Yeah. And Husnia, any comment from you? Or even Rose?
Hey, can you hear me, Rita? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm just curious, like how maybe you had a successful project and you're looking to pitch to someone else.
Okay.
How do you know, like, when you're going on to a new project, how do you determine like you did it well enough? Like, which are the KPIs of a very successful project management? In lists that should all these things align together, you can say you successfully accomplished what it is you wanted, regardless of the budget here and there. Like, what are some of the KPIs you can pitch to someone to show them your last projects were successful?
So I think that, if I'm not wrong, that would speak to quality management. So remember, when you're starting the project, you need to define what success will look like.
Okay.
So that's why I spoke about defining your quality management strategy.
Yeah.
For instance, in NGO, it could be what will success look like? Maybe it's after I transform a society. What is transformation of a society? So you break it down. I'm targeting the teenagers. Maybe it's I'll reduce the number of pregnancies. So quantify that. Yeah. If it's fashion design that we're using, it's to tap the teenagers. So how many teenagers do I want to have trained and certified within 1 month.
Yeah.
So the success criteria becomes very important, and it should be defined before the project starts.
Okay.
So that later you can now, so those KPIs are very important, and make sure it's a number. We shouldn't sometimes, some of the, the mistakes we make is making it quantitative, qualitative, sorry. So we say, we want to introduce change, but what does change really mean? Yeah. So put it in numbers such that when we're looking whether a project was successful or not, we now come back and look at that. If it was 10 and we trained 7,
Yeah.
maybe then we can say, was that within the success criteria that we did?
Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Also, it definitely makes sense, because I know maybe the hardest part of all this, I'm assuming, is pitching. And how
Yes.
do you convince someone which KPIs they should look for? As you said, if you can't measure it, you can't prove it.
Exactly.
I think it's just taking like a sample size, maybe as you've said, if it's in a community aspect, the sample size, and just be able to measure whatever it is you're doing, which I think like nowadays is overlooked more so, or people just don't know how to measure well enough. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a key. Yeah, it's one of the key challenges, and it brings in a lot of challenges when you're trying to even pitch again and even get funding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when you're told to quantify, show us this, the community was at this point, and then where are they right now? You can't really quantify it. So it's very important as you kick off the project, think about this and agree with your stakeholders what success will look like. Because as you said in the end, what doesn't get measured has not been done.
Yes.
That's what they say. Yeah, if you can't measure it, then
you can't prove it.
Exactly, you can't prove it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other question or comment? So we are both learning from this. Okay, so I'll move on to the next one. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I can see
Yeah,
the chat.
I think there was a hitch in the sound a bit. I don't know if it was just on my end.
Okay, am I clear now?
Try again.
Am I clear? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, thank you. So I wanted to just highlight there are specific methodologies that are followed in project management. So, and to just mention that project management it's a scientific approach with a defined methodology. So you'll find there are different ones that different organizations follow. So we have one which is PMP, maybe the mostly followed and used by organizations. So that's project management professional. We have Prince 2. So Prince 2 is projects in controlled environments. And have different phases, different guidelines. For instance, Prince 2, which is projects in controlled environments, we have different stages. So the first one will be directing a project. Then that's at that point, starting up a project. So you do the business case, it's approved, you take to your donors or to the organization directors who approve it. So it has the problem statement and the different options that you have and the best that you're recommending. Then it also has the financial impact. Are you going to make a profit, or what if it's NGO, what are you really addressing? Then we have the project mandate. What's the work that you're going to do? Then you move into directing a project where you now kick off the work, then you control the project throughout, then you close it. So there are different phases. If you look at the scaled agile framework, so this one says instead of taking up a very big project at a very high level, let's go in with a minimum viable product. So it could be the instance about Amani Kibera. Maybe our minimum is team talks. So we get we get to kick off that mini project as that. We learn from it, see the benefits, and then we kick off the fashion design. So it's incremental value in any environment. So that's agility, for instance. When it comes to like an example for Oracle is we have the True Cloud methodology, which is technology driven. So this one is for implementing solutions that go to the cloud. So there are different types, maybe to the team. I don't know if which certifications you've done, or if you've followed any methodology. So it's totally different. Project management is different from things like organizing events because it follows a certain scientific methodology. From one stage, one phase to another, you get the sign off, you move to the other one as you control all these other aspects. So I don't know which ones we could just go around, which methodology, if you use any methodology or you're certified in any, if you could share with us. I can see Kellen who has joined us. Do you want to share with us? Or Mora or Rose, anyone?
I think maybe I would say in my previous work experience,
yeah,
actually based on PMP. Like I had so many colleagues who had done PMP, okay, but now I've been transitioning in different sectors, and okay, they're actually all working differently. But yeah, what I figured is the basics of project management apply, and like throughout, it applies throughout in all the sectors. But now the dynamics of handling the projects is completely different.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
correct. And different methodologies can be customized. So if I look at PMP, I used PMP in AMREF when I was in NGO. I moved to banking where we used Prince2 and the Scaled Agile. Then now in technology, we now use the TCM for Oracle. So, and it doesn't mean you just follow one. So you'll go to certain organizations and get they have customized, they're using PMP and also Prince2, so that it can fit the type of projects that they run and within that environment. Yeah, any comment or question on this? So all these you can find them online. There are all types of project management methodologies that if someone is interested in project management or to know how to manage a project, this would be good guidelines to just read around and get to understand them. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Fine. So I'll move on to project governance. So project governance is very important when looking at project management. So this is, we can define it as the methodology that drives management framework within which project decisions are made. So there are different levels of project governance. So we have executive leadership. And so these are the owners of the project, yeah? So it could be your donors, it could be the organization, for instance, let's say the head of, the country head, MSF or AMREF. So that executive, the directors, the executive leadership, because these are the people who mandate you to do a certain project, yeah? Or it could even be a startup, your own NGO. So you're the one who is making these decisions. Then you have to have a project manager, yeah? A qualified trained project manager who does the coordination. So someone who manages the different constraints that we have spoken about. Then under them, they have the team lead or the team that is now executing. So these are the people who are training the fashion designs, the people who are buying the material, the people who are hands-on, who are doing the real work. So as part of governance, this is part of what, maybe, I don't know, from your experience from the team, how many levels of governance you've worked with before?
I've worked with executive leadership.
Okay.
Yeah, where different organization funds an organization, then the project manager actually coordinate the project, and then there is a team lead.
Okay.
The people who actually execute on the ground.
On the ground, correct. So, and every level are mandated with their own, so we have tolerances. For instance, at project management level, you can still have decisions. So as a project manager, there are decisions I can make, but it's very clearly defined within the framework what percentage. So I'm told maybe if it's the scope that I want to adjust a bit, I can only do 5%. Anything or 2%, anything beyond 2% will have an impact on timelines and budget, which means that is something that I need to take to executive level for decisioning. So every level, even the team can be allowed maybe to adjust something or to make a certain, organization can say decisions are only made at this level for this amount of tolerance. And also executives, they are also made for only this amount of this level. So yeah, so sorry for that. So that is the different levels. So before you start any project, it's very important to define the project governance levels and who is going to do what. So this is a good, it's just an operating model, an instance. So at executive leadership level, so we have the steering committee. So we'll meet monthly. The steering committee will meet monthly, and it has like the directors or the executives. Then who participates? So we have the project sponsors, the business head of departments, maybe it's the head of microfinance, the head of WASH, the different managers that you have within an organization, and the project managers. Then what is the input? So the project manager is going to come up with a project status report summary. So that talks to all the constraints. Where are we on scope, on budget? How are we performing? Timeline, are we on track? What risks do we have? What issues do you want to bring to the steerco? Then the output will be the decisions that they make or the direction they give you. Then of course you do the minutes and the action items. So this, for instance, can happen once per month, but you could agree maybe you need it after every 2 weeks. It depends on the organization. So you can see the registers that are there. You need a decisions register, key risks and issues, change control, if you're changing any scope or any budget, and the planned project tasks. What are you doing next month? What have you achieved this month? Then at project management level, we have project management status meetings. So this is how are we doing against the plan? What have we accomplished this week? What are we planning next week? What are the rates log? It's called the risks, assumptions, dependencies, issues log. Then change control, is there any change we need to introduce and who needs to approve it? What are the planned project tasks for the following week? So you map out who are the participants that you need, who are the stakeholders. Then what is the input? So you'll use your project plan and your resource plan and the project status report. So you can see this happens weekly, yeah? Then at the end of the month, then you hold the steering committee. Then at a team level, we can have the daily stand-ups where we now ask every day, what did we achieve yesterday? What are we planning for today? Any new risk that we can see or issue? And to ask the team, what support do you require? Then you define who needs to be there. And then what is the input? So it's very clear before we start a project, this is the governance model that we have. And these are the meetings that we're going to be holding. Yeah, does this make sense? And different organizations, different industries will have different operating models. The only important thing is to ensure everyone is on the same page and it's acceptable to everyone, to all the stakeholders, and you've agreed. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. It's a nice model that an organization can really apply.
Yeah, and it's to customize to what will work, you know? Not everyone, not everyone can do daily or weekly. So it's just ensure there's a plan and it has been agreed upon by everyone. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So also it depends on the project that you are running.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, the stakeholders you have. So it's an agreement. Whatever agreement you have, make sure you document it. And then as a project manager, your work is to ensure it's being followed.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So something else at the beginning of the project is you ensure, so this is just a very high level. So you ensure that you agree the responsibilities. So who is doing what? Some projects are inter-countries or inter-regions. So please define it. Yeah, so red could be one organization or one region, green could be another one. So who is the project, who is project managing? Yeah, so is it you have a project manager for the green and one for the red? Then what governance are you following? Yeah, do you need to change any policies? Who is going to be in charge of that? Yeah. So you customize it, define the roles and responsibility very clearly from the beginning of the project. So that's just something I wanted to depict. So for technology, this is what a good example of what they use. So as they're building the system, we can say that's one organization. Then the client and the vendor will test together. Security, it's shared responsibility. So make it very clear from the word go. Yeah. So that's what I had. Maybe just to open, I don't know what else. I had a sample of this is how a communication meetings plan will look like, maybe for instance. So we have daily stand-ups every day, as we discussed at team level. Then we have a PMO alignment meeting every Monday. Then every Friday we send a report. And also every day in the evening, 5:30 p.m., we send a status report. So it's very clear that this is the expectation. Because remember, a project is a controlled environment. If we miss out on any of the constraints, it will impact. Okay, I think that's all that I had from my perspective. Maybe to just open the discussion to everyone.
I just have a question.
Yes.
Say you're handling a project, and you're in charge of client interaction. Of course, if you're the project manager, you're basically in charge of all client interactions and engagement. Yeah. Now you receive instructions from the client regarding how probably, okay, this is in the case of maybe in the business environment, not really the NGO. So you receive instructions from the client on how they want the project done. And now as the project manager from your end, you can see that the results are really not going to favor the project, and you know it's going to be later on. But now the client insists that his or her way is the right way. So how do you really handle it when from your end you can see that it definitely won't work the way they want?
Okay, so in a business, and that happens all the time, Beryl, in a business environment. So the client has come to you as an expert and they want your expertise. And you tell them this is the best solution. And they insist no, and it could be because of, they don't have a budget to that, or they insist on something else. Of importance is make it very clear as you define the scope. Make it, as in have them document it and highlight the risk. So you must highlight that, so we are recommending option X as the best, but if you go with this other option that you're insisting with, this is the risk that you're investing in. So there'll be a risk of not achieving your whatever you want to achieve. There's a risk that you won't achieve it. Then let them sign off on that. Let them know that very clearly, such that even after implementing the project, they won't come back and say they are not paying you because you know that thing is not working, because they insisted on going that way. So that's one of the ways. I don't know if you think that would work. Because sometimes, as much as you try and influence them and show the value of the best solution, a client may still insist on going, on having it a certain way. Just make sure you highlight the critical risks of what they want to implement. And of course, if it's something that you can't implement, that you very well know will not work, it's very okay to walk away from them and tell them, get someone else to implement this for you. Because you don't want to be associated with a failed project. So it depends on what your policies say in your organization, for instance. Beryl, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that really makes sense. And okay, another question again. Now in the NGO field,
yeah,
mostly I've encountered donors. They maybe give you a grant, if I may say. Yeah, most of the time it's usually grants in the NGO, but they literally want to, take your project and run with it. Yeah, so I know most of my friends are experiencing that. And it's usually a problem because sometimes they want sponsorship for their projects, and then they're a bit tentative on, accepting money from donors as much as they need it, because it's usually a hassle trying to own the project.
That will be interesting. How are the rest of the people in the team? How have you dealt with that?
So sometimes, like I know, like in one case, the director now of the CBO, the director of the CBO basically outrightly told the sponsor to halt their funding, because it was now creating problems on who was running the project. Because on social, the sponsors and donors are like, this is our idea and everything, but on the ground, that's basically not what's happening. The idea is not theirs. Yeah. So they had to stop the funding. He told the sponsor outrightly they don't need the funding. So they just stayed without funding. And, it's a bit hard because he's handling orphans and vulnerable children. So it was a bit hard really trying to manage the children, because he had to now dig into his pocket.
Yeah, so that's one option that they could. Maybe Eunice, Kellen, Mora, Rose, have you encountered this scenario? Or what do you think how would you address it?
Not really. With the NGOs that I've worked with, we've seen that they just fund and then we implement the project. So I've never encountered such.
Okay, Eunice?
Yes.
Okay. I also haven't encountered that, but I know a close friend of mine who has, and he was actually running a community project in his rural place, at his rural place. And one time he went fundraising and he got these people who were willing to fund, but they also wanted to take over the project. So he ended up actually handing over the project to them, which is running today. So it also, I think, depends on what you want ultimately for the project, because he didn't have issues with handing over the project, because he just wanted to help his community, and he felt like, his community would get better help when these other guys were coming on board. So yeah, I haven't experienced it, but I know people who have. So it happens.
Okay. Thanks for that. Thanks for your contribution. Any other person? Yeah, I think it will depend on the intention. Why are you doing this project? And what are you aiming to be the outcome? Because some as you have discussed, some of them can just, you can just walk away from it if that conflict is there, because the opposite becomes a very expensive. If you let someone else run your project or what, it's a very expensive, it can become a very expensive mistake. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay.
Yes, Eunice?
I just wanted to add on the whole issue of having people wanting to take up your project, is that depending on your project, you can actually give away parts of that project. Like, for example, with projects like Maktaba Mashinani, if someone came and said they wanted to take up the entire project, we have projects in different counties, so you can segment that, and you put yourself in a place where you are able to release parts of your project but still remain within the project. Yeah, I wanted to add that.
Okay. Yeah, that could work also. I think that's a good solution, and I think it's very situational. It depends on the scenario that you're working on, and who is coming to take over the project or what. So it depends on how the situation that you are in the project. And remember, for project management, we are problem solvers. So you'll encounter a lot of problems because it's change. And when you're introducing change, there are different interests to different stakeholders. And then you also find that there are different insecurities. There are people who don't want this change, they're opposed to it. So it's looking around it, anticipating some of the issues you're going to have, and trying to creatively problem solve them through even forums like this. You could reach out to your networks and see whether they're experiencing the same, or even more experienced people in the same industry, and look for different options on how to address them. Yes, Eunice? Eunice, your hand is up.
Sorry, I raised it. Okay. It's because I didn't put it down. Sorry.
Okay. I don't know if we have any other question or any comments. From the team?
No, I don't have any question.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm thinking maybe after this session, I'm not sure what the others will, what are the sentiments of the others, but as we had, I think we had spoken before on having another session on project management, now to delve into the minute details regarding it. So I can't make a decision for the other participants, but for me, I would definitely like another session, because I'm really much into project management.
Okay.
So maybe you can also share with us the documents that you are presenting with, then you can go through it. So if anything comes up, maybe, I don't know, we can reach out to you.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Eunice, Kellen, what do you think about us having another session on project management?
Yes, yes, we can have another session for project management. It's really useful.
Yeah.
I agree. We need more sessions of this, and I'm personally very sorry that I came in here late. You can never need or have too much of these lessons, especially for people in our fields. So yeah, I would love to have more sessions of this. Thank you.
Okay. So maybe what specific topics would you want to cover? Because as you've seen, it's quite huge, and as you're in the field, so that for the next sessions, maybe it's more targeted towards a certain skill.
For me, I'd say risk management, risk assessment, mitigation, and management.
Okay.
I don't know. I love to learn as much as possible. Okay. So anything in that line will be welcome. My personal struggles would be in the line of sustainability, and financial, or rather fundraising on the same. Okay. But anything around sustainability would work very well for me. But I don't know, that is what I know. I would love to know a lot about the other things that I do not know of. So, yeah.
Moraros, Kellen.
Hello. Hi,
hello.
Rita. Hi, Rita.
Yes.
You can hear me? Hello, Rita.
You can hear you. It's Beryl, Rita's name.
Oh, okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
I really love the presentation. All I want to say is that keep up the good work, and I'm looking forward to others. Life's all about learning.
Okay. Thank you, Rose.
Karibu.
Yes, anything to do with the anything to do with project management. I would really appreciate to learn more on that line also.
Anything specific that maybe a skill that you would want to build onto in project management, or anything you're struggling with?
I think on that line, anything to do with project management, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'll also ask my team what they would also love to learn. Yes.
Okay.
So thank you, Mumbi, for your time. Thank you for taking your time to take us through this session. I don't know, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, yeah. I thought I'd muted myself. So thank you for taking your time to take us through this session. Maybe you can prepare yourself for the other session, and we can communicate on email when you think you'll be available for the next.
Thank you. And it was nice meeting you. It's always, I believe in forming networks where we learn from each other. Yes. So yeah, you can share with the team my email in case of anything that I can help with. I would be happy to.
That's fine. And I'll also share I'll share with them the deck, the presentation deck as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon as well. Bye-bye.
Bye.